As we anticipate what's going to happen in Israel the next week, I think it's important to take a look at what Steve Witkoff was saying. Just run the tape here and see what Trump's envoy says in the context of the hostages.
Here we go.
Try again. Take two. They went to get her.
Hello.
Hey.
How are we?
How are you?
How are you?
I brought the great Mr. Witkoff out here today. Obviously, there's a lot of foreign policy news. The president put out a very strong statement to Hamas directly last night. And Mr. Witkoff brought the hostages to the White House, to the Oval Office yesterday. And the president met with them, and Mr. Witkoff did as well. So I wanted to give Steve an opportunity to take some of your questions. Obviously, we ask you reserve questions about non-foreign policy topics for him. That's his wheelhouse. And we'll let you guys take some questions, but I think he has some words to share with you as well.
Hi everybody. So we had a wonderful day with the hostages yesterday. We had them for breakfast, spent a bunch of time with them, and then of course they got the treat of a lifetime. They got to spend some time with President Trump. And we thought it was going to be a short period of time because his day was busy, but he ended up spending about an hour with them, with each of the hostages. Pictures, and he spent a lot of time listening to their stories about what happened for them in captivity, and he was clearly emotional about it, as anybody would be. We had other people in the Oval Office as well, and I think that they felt a really great sense of catharsis, that they got to tell the president about their experience, talk about other.
And let's just comment, when people talk about never again is now, it's clearly ridiculous. Thank God this has nothing to do with 1945. Of course, you had a genocidal enemy, but thank God the Jewish people are able to have direct access to the White House and to actually have people directly out of captivity in the Oval Office with the president. So the comparisons to 1945 just really are not true.
Hostages who they spent time with while they were in captivity, and the need to get them all home, and that led to his truth last night. So I describe it as a very, very important day for them. I think they all went home feeling that they got a great sense of closure, at least in part. So,
Steve, what is your time? What is the deadline for Hamas to release all the hostages, or else? And then separately, I want to ask you about your trip on Tuesday to Riyadh.
So I would say to you that the president was pretty blunt. It's time for Hamas to start acting in a responsible and reasonable way. And we don't think that they have been doing that.
And you're going.
Now, this is great to hear, of course. Not that Hamas isn't acting properly, but just that the fact that there's clarity coming from the White House, that's a huge thing. And it's important that we acknowledge that.
Riyadh on Tuesday to meet with Ukrainians, with Rubio and Waltz. What do you expect to come out of that meeting? What would a successful meeting look like?
Well, President Zelensky sent a letter to the president. I think the president thought that it was a really good, positive first step. And from that, we're now in discussions to coordinate a meeting with the Ukrainians in Riyadh, or even potentially Jeddah. So the city's moving around a little bit, but it will be Saudi Arabia. And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well.
And a signature.
Steve Holland.
Steve, sorry.
Okay.
The direct discussions with Hamas. And how are you going about getting Eden Alexander out of captivity?
Well, Eden Alexander is very important to us, as all the hostages are, but Eden Alexander is an American, and he's injured. And so he's a top priority for us. And Adam Bowler is, as you know, the special envoy in charge of hostages, and he's had conversations. We feel that Hamas has not been forthright with us, and it's time for them to be forthright with us.
And this is, again, a positive thing that the White House is very clear about this. From day one, so many people have been saying that the American hostages, and hostages from many, many different countries, that their countries could be involved. Obviously, the United States is extremely involved, but just to hear Witkoff clearly stating that they're concerned about an American is is not only important, but it does reiterate the fact that it's not just an Israeli who happens to have American citizenship, but there are Americans. So when people are talking about, oh, America has to butt out, America, the kind of isolationist wing, you have American citizens that are held hostage in Gaza. And it's important just to recognize that it's the responsibility of the American government to do everything they can to free them as well.
And Anita and Alexander would be a very important show. And so we'll see how they're going to react. The president has issued a statement about what's acceptable to him and what's not. And hopefully we'll see some good conduct next week, and I'll be able to go in there and have discussions.
Steve, is the three-phase negotiation, is the three-phase kind of agreement framework still in place, or did the president's Truth Social kind of upend that?
Well, I would say that the president basically was saying, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's fairly clear he was saying, I've had enough. Like, there's a lot of mistreatment. There's a lot of conversation among these hostages about the deprivation that they went through, about murders that they saw. And I think that the president listened to it, absorbed it, and said, it's unacceptable. I'm not going to tolerate this type of behavior.
So what does that mean for phase 2 negotiations?
I don't think I don't think, as the president has said before, I don't think you alert everybody how you're going to negotiate or what your reaction's going to be. But I wouldn't test President Trump.
Steve, what is the bottom line? What happens when, and what's the bottom line for President Trump, and what happens? Does the U.S. authorize someone to take action, or does the U.S. take action?
Well, I think it's unclear exactly what's going to happen. I think there's going to be some action. It could be jointly with the Israelis. It's unclear right now, but I think Hamas has an opportunity to act reasonably, to do what's right, and then to walk out. They're not going to be a part of a government there. Everybody understands that, and that.
All right, so here we get that. That's important stuff. Now let's go to Trump says here, talking about what he means by Hamas, what Hamas will discover if they don't play ball.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Mr. President, your envoy Steve Witkoff told us a little while ago that if Hamas does not release hostages, that the U.S. and Israel could take some action. What does that mean in your eyes? Is that military action? Would you join strikes with Israel?
Well, you're going to find out. I had the honor of spending a lot of time yesterday with quite a few of the people that we got out, and I can't believe how badly treated they were, really badly treated. Stories that you wouldn't even believe. Some of it was documented, some of it was so bad you couldn't really, I don't think you can put it on. And it's a shame, and they said one thing, that they have 59 hostages, of which many of them are killed. They want to know if we could just continue. They said without us, look, Biden wasn't able to get anybody out. We came along and they started releasing. But we have 59 left, of which 24 are living. The rest are dead. And I put out a statement. It's sort of self-explanatory, I think. But somebody's going to have to get a lot rougher than they're getting. It's a shame. And those 24 that are living, because they were with them just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, depending on when they got out. But they said they're in very bad shape.
What this means exactly, again, we're not really sure, except for the fact that it's clear, the signals coming out of Israel, that Israel is getting ready to go back into Gaza. There's plenty of areas in Gaza that have not actually been taken over. Deir al-Balach, for one. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but time is ticking, and from the people I'm talking to, it seems like the waiting period is closing. So you see the signals coming out of the White House. You see Israel now with Eyal Zamir as chief of staff. It's about to be go time, and it's clear that things are going to change. So we'll see what happens, but definitely not going to be the same thing a week from today. It's going to be some pieces moving. My money is on Israel re-engaging within the next